faster, faster, faster. You just kick it like a horse. Hello, Dylan here from Throttle Company, Vintage Motorcycles. We are doing an in the loop. I've already got the bike out, ready to go. It is a 1972 Norton Commando 750. First year of the disc brake in the front. So the rear is a drum, front is the disc. We just bought a 71 for Throttle Company, and it is drum in the front. So Norton, you see Norton Lockheed, they did that. So I know they eventually went on to do the Triumph brakes. Very similar bikes. If you know these British twins, Norton is a British company, if you're not aware, that went out of business in 1975. So a few years after this, they were on top of the world before that, and the Japanese bikes kind of put them out of business. We had this in for a bunch of service. This is, I don't know if anyone's seen, we might have posted about this, but this bike had a pound of corn. The Indians call it maize, but stuck inside of the exhaust pipe. So it was pretty wild. We all had a big laugh about it. Very, very absurd situation. But the guy, I guess, is a farmer or something. This is a customer bike, and it just sat over winter or something, and the mice made a nest in there. That's very common, like air boxes and stuff like that. But for the exhaust, that was a first for me. The exhaust is very straight through, and I think they just made a home in there. It's kind of hilarious. But it needed new valves and some other things here and there, some clutch work and stuff like that. But getting it tuning, carburetors, always the carburetors. But the proportions, I'm a real big fan of the Triumphs, which are very similar to these, but this is what you would call a pre-unit construction, meaning the engine is separate from the transmission. So you see that here, separated, and the primary on the other side is what connects those two, and that's how they're coupled together, but they're not part of the same unit, so they're pre-unit. Now we make most motorcycles are all together as one, and that is called unit construction. So kick only, of course. This does not have turn signals, but I feel like they should. In 1971, I think the regulation said that you had to have. So anyway, here's how you turn it on. British bikes. I'm going to turn on the key. I'm going to hold that down until you see a little bit of gas coming out of there. That's called the tickler. And you have to tickle the carburetors, as the British would say. So you hold that down until gas comes out. So we know we've flooded the carburetor. It's a little rich. I'm even going to add some choke. Kick it until I feel a little bit of compression. I'm going to give a little bit of throttle. I'm going to kick on through. Oh, I heard it there. That was my fault. I just gave too ginger of a kick. I didn't want to sound out of shape on video. But there we are. It just runs great. I don't even think we need choke. It could warm up a minute. But it really does have a great sound, a very breathy British twin. Both those pistons, it's just two-cylinder, but both those pistons are moving together, and you hear the pump, 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 pump. It's a very cool sound. This bike is right side shift. This is the shifter. Like I said, this is a transmission. And if you can tell from that pattern right there, it's reverse pattern, or modern kind of race boys would call it GP shift, as in the racing. So got a headlight, got the kickstand. So I'm gonna go up for first. I'm gonna first now, and every other gear is down. I love that pattern. It's very cool. The problem is switching back and forth. So it's down for second. Oh, I did it kind of too hard. So enunciate my point, but I messed up. Okay, so we brake on the left with my foot, my left foot. The right handle is brake, left handle is clutch, just like a normal motorcycle that you're used to, a modern bike. And so as I'm slowing down, I'm up, up, up on the gear lever, the shifter. So now it's down for second, down for third. We only have 4 gears. That's very typical of the time, our Sportster of this time. So British bikes, American bikes, only 4 speeds usually. So they just hadn't gotten the technology, or they didn't think you needed to go that fast. So you usually get less gears. But this bike, the point of these videos is to show off things like the right-hand shift, just the beautiful bikes that things used to be. I just love, obviously I own a vintage motorcycle shop. I just love the vintage bikes. They're so cool. They got some quirks, and I like to go over that. Not a lot of people realize that stuff. But riding this bike, I mean, Nortons were kind of known as the speedy bikes, the fast bikes. There's Norton, Triumph, BSA. There's a couple other brands. Royal Enfield's obviously in there. We're a Royal Enfield dealer, modern Royal Enfield. But I've got a couple of bikes of this era, Royal Enfields. Norton and Royal Enfield kind of sort of on their same level performance-wise. Norton or Royal Enfield was one of the first bikes to make a 750. Most other bikes were 650 twins at the time period. Norton's 750, and then the year after this, they become the 850. So they were really pushing the boundaries of displacement and performance and stuff like that. The disc brake. They had a lot of kind of performance-minded things, and for that reason Norton owners are less purists, because if you made kind of modifications that were period correct in the interest of performance, they don't hate that as much as, say, a Triumph guy would. Triumph guys, if you have the wrong tires on it, they just get all bent out of shape. Down for second. Oh, missed. I think I hit in between second, third. I got no turn signals, so I'm going to do hand signals. Hopefully the guy behind me doesn't hit me. Mirror barely works, so I'll never know. Up for first. Try to get in the line here. What was I saying? Anyway, what it feels like to ride this bike, it does feel fast. It feels much faster than a Triumph 650. There's something about when you get going faster, the vibrations kind of smooth out, and it just feels efficient at speed, or at engine speed, which is interesting. This is actually, well, it's not the first Norton I've ridden, but first Norton I've ridden in a while, and yeah, it definitely feels performance oriented. The clutch is kind of grabby, kind of just like a bike that wants to get up and go. But I love a bike like this. I mean, this is the golden era of British motorcycles. Late 60s, early 70s, especially for Norton. They were kind of over the crest. They were really, sales were declining by the early 70s, and they were just trying to hang on. But anyway, I had mentioned those other brands. So BSA is sort of the working man's bike. There were more of them. BSA at one point in time was the #1 selling motorcycle in the world. Then Triumph is sort of the level up, a little bit better fit and finish, a little bit nicer, other than the special models of BSA. BSA had a lot of special models, but the Triumphs was just a bit higher standard. We're the gentleman's motorcycle. Nortons were always priced a little more, and they were, you know, the guy that wanted speed, the gentleman racer, if you will. Then Royal Enfield, just kind of a rare, they've always been kind of that niche, weird brand. And you got to pay attention when you're shifting here, because obviously the difference between if I'm in second and I want to go down for third, or instead I go up and I'm in first, that could be a bad day. So you got to kind of pay attention. So now I'm going to go up, shift, and we're in second. But the cornering is great. I honestly don't feel like this cornering, like these frames, the chassis, there we go, I messed up my shift there. Because I was talking, the frames are sort of famous for having good handling, but I honestly feel like a Triumph handles better of this era. Well, I don't know about this era, now you get into the oil in frame Triumphs, but the right before this, kind of the ending in 1970, the oil tank years. But everything functions very well for a bike of this era, especially a British bike. goes, stops, shifts very well. This bike runs amazing. It has an electronic ignition. Back then they would have had little points that open and close that fire the spark plugs. And this is all handled electronically, so basically a small computer does that. A little bit more consistent, a little bit more in time all the time kind of thing. But we just put brand new tires on this, so I'm taking it a little bit easy, but the new tires made a huge difference. But you can just feel that. It smooths out as you get going, and it's awesome. I'm all the way on 4th now. It looks like I'm going 50. Doesn't feel like I'm going 50. You get vibration. A bike like this, you get a lot of vibration, especially in your feet. I noticed that about Norton's. The foot pegs, it's just a metal shaft that's hard mounted, and then a rubber like piece around it that your foot goes on. Man, you get a lot of vibration through your heels and everything. It's just, these actually, because of the whole performance thing and everything, they had rubber mounted engines, but it didn't do a lot. I can't imagine what it would be if it wasn't rubber mounted. The vibrations would be nearly unbearable. But it's got a lot of pull, a lot of get up and go. This thing really, we redid the valves on this too, which obviously, I don't know if you know anything about those, but it helps a lot with compression. So because this is so easy to kick, it doesn't really become a problem as far as kicking it, but it really helps with the performance, helps the bike run. Compression is essential for how well a bike runs. This is a fun bike to ride. I love that shift. I honestly think reverse pattern shifting is way, way, way better. When you're on it, when you're really giving it gas, clicking down is such an easier motion with your foot. Look at my foot here. This is an awkward motion, okay? Now I went down a gear, now I go up to 1st. That is an awkward motion. And I like having the awkward motion when I'm not in a hurry. Here, I'm slowing down, I'm coming up to a light. I have the time to lift up awkwardly. But when I'm getting on it and I'm taking off, clicking down, it just couldn't be an easier motion, you know what I mean? A lot of people have like a heel toe shifter, people like that. That is 100% the idea behind a heel toe shifter, is I can just click down with my heel, click, click, click. It's such an easier, more natural motion than when you're going fast. So you don't have to think about it. Hopefully, I've missed a couple, but hopefully you don't miss them. So I'm getting on it, click down, click down, so easy. So natural, just down faster, faster, faster. You just kick it like a horse. But the problem is going back and forth. Now I'm gonna ride another bike that's right side shift, but the other way pattern, and now that's when I get messed up. People ask every once in a while about what's it like switching your feet, going from right side shift to left side shift. I don't find that to be a problem. Luckily, I have never had like a real panic emergency stop on a right side shift bike. I usually leave a ton of distance between me and the car in front of me, and I try to pay attention. And I do my best, knowing my brakes are not going to be the best. But that's not a problem shifting feet. It's shifting the direction of the shift. Man, I have to think about that a lot. But it's fun. It's part of that, you know. Bikes like this, especially a really well-tuned bike like this, that runs well. I mean, this is a time machine. This guy bought this bike new in 1973, 1974, or 1972, 1973, and he bought it off the showroom floor. You know, something crazy like under $1,000, which is insane because this is easily a $10,000 bike today. It's funny because when this thing showed up, I just think it's like one of the best looking motorcycles of all time, and I thought, hey, before I start working on this, maybe this guy would be interested in selling this. And he said, I wouldn't sell this bike for $1 million. I said, well, that prices me out because I would not pay $1 million. I don't know what I would pay, but I just bought one that's in worse condition that hasn't been running for $5,000, and I feel good about it. Especially after riding this. If it rides half as nice as this, I will be ecstatic because these are great, great fun time machines. This is what it was like. These were on the road. in 1971, 72, all the way up to 75. 75 they have electric start, so you didn't have to kick it, but from what I hear, they don't work that well. So anyway, you know what does work well is the kill switch on this, so I will show you that in a second. But I do videos like this. I have the honor and the privilege to ride a ton of motorcycles from different time periods. One of my last videos was on a brand new 2021, so if that tells you anything, but I just want to share that with you and let you know what it's like to ride a 1972 Norton 750 Commando, and it is awesome. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, like this video if you liked it, and I'll see you on the next one.